This morning, you woke up and the first thing you did was open your phone. Maybe you texted someone. Maybe you just scrolled through your feed. And somewhere out there, among a million foreign faces, and something tightened inside you. Familiar? We call it attraction, a crush, falling in love. We think we understand what it is, but here's the strange thing. This feeling is hundreds of thousands of years old. Yet, the way we experience it today is less than 100 years old. Everything you know about falling in love was invented yesterday, and almost nobody knows how it actually used to work. Let's start with biology, because falling in love isn't about romance. It's chemistry. Hard, precise, ruthless. In the 1990s, anthropologist Helen Fisher from Rutgers University began systematically studying the brains of people in love using fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. She scanned people as they looked at photographs of their loved ones and observed what was happening inside their skulls. The result was unexpected. It wasn't the emotion zone that activated, it was the ventral tegmental area, a part of the reward system, the exact same area that lights up in a cocaine addict when they see white powder. Falling in love is not a feeling, it's an addiction. Fisher identified three distinct systems in the brain: lust, driven by testosterone and estrogen; romantic love, driven by dopamine and norepinephrine; attachment, driven by oxytocin and vasopressin. These are three separate processes that can exist independently. You can be attached to one person, in love with another, and feel lust for a third, all at the same time. Evolution didn't design us to be monogamous by default, it designed us to be flexible. But here is the question: how did all of this work 300,000 years ago when there were no restaurants, no texting, and not even any clothes? The answer begins with scent. It sounds strange, but bear with me. It's about to get interesting. In 1995, biologist Klaus Wedekind from the University of Bern conducted an experiment now known as the sweaty t-shirt study. He asked 44 men to wear the same cotton t-shirt for 2 days straight. No deodorant, no perfume, using the same unscented soap. Then he collected the shirts in boxes and asked women to sniff them and rate the attractiveness of the scent. The women consistently preferred the scent of men with a different set of immune system genes, the so-called MHC, or major histocompatibility complex. The more the man's immune profile differed from the woman's, the more attractive his scent seemed to her. Why? Because children born to two people with different immune systems get a broader defense against diseases. Evolution built a genetic compatibility detector inside us, and it works through the nose. For ancient humans, this was everything. They didn't have a profile in an app. They only had proximity, physical, bodily proximity. A partner's scent was the first and primary signal. This person is a good biological match for you, or stay away. This is exactly why, by the way, some couples say, "I just felt it right away. They smelled right." It's not a metaphor. It is literally the ancient evolutionary algorithm at work. But scent was just the beginning. Next, the body entered the game. Back in 1981, anthropologist Owen Lovejoy put forward a theory that has since been refined many times. Bipedalism, walking upright, in humans is directly linked to our mating system. When our ancestors stood up on two legs, the front of the body, the chest, the belly, the face, became visible to the partner. This changed everything. In most primates, mating happens from behind, and signals of reproductive readiness in females are visual signs on the rear of the body. With humans, it's completely different. We look each other in the face. We see the expression in the eyes. We read micro-expressions. This required a new level of cognition. Understanding what another person is feeling is a complex task for the brain. It's no coincidence that Homo sapiens have the most developed mirror neuron system of any known species. We quite literally feel what the other person feels because we needed to do that to choose a mate. A first date in the Paleolithic looked something like this: two people looking at each other by a campfire. No words. Well, almost none. Language was still primitive. There is a gaze, a gesture, the way a person holds their body. And in a fraction of a second, the brain processes all of this and delivers a verdict. We still do the exact same thing today. Research by psychologist Nalini Ambady at Harvard showed that people form a lasting first impression of someone in just 2 seconds. And that impression rarely changes later, even if they receive fundamentally new information about the person. 2 seconds. For 300,000 years, this algorithm hasn't changed. Now let's look at what happened after that first glance. In small groups of hunter-gatherers, which is how our ancestors lived for most of history, the average size of a community was about 150 people. This number was calculated by British anthropologist Robin Dunbar in the 1990s by analyzing the size of the neocortex in primates and comparing it to the size of social groups. Since then, it's been called Dunbar's number. Out of 150 people, about half are the opposite sex. Subtract children and the elderly. You are left with maybe 20 to 30 potential partners over your entire lifetime. This isn't Tinder with a million profiles. This is your village. You knew everyone. You saw how they hunted, how they acted in danger, how they shared food, how they laughed. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer tribes, like the Hadza in Tanzania or the Kung and the Kalahari, document the exact same thing. Mate choice there is not based on looks. It is based on reputation. How reliable is this person? How generous? How brave? Biologist Frank Marlowe, who spent years doing field research among the Hadza, asked men and women what mattered most in a partner. The number one answer for both sexes was character. Not looks, not status. Character. This doesn't mean looks didn't matter, they did. But they were just one of many factors because you weren't choosing from a million. You were choosing from from 30, and you knew those 30 personally. And now for the climax, the trap that civilization has set for us. In 2012, the journal Psychological Science published a study by psychologist Barry Schwartz. He studied a phenomenon he called the paradox of choice. The more options a person has, the less satisfied they are with their ultimate choice. In one experiment, people were given a choice of either 6 types of jam or 24 types. Those who chose from the 6 were significantly happier with their purchase. Those who chose from 24 doubted themselves, regretted it, and thought, what if that other one was better? Now imagine this applied to love. Dating apps show the average user between 100 and 300 profiles a day. That isn't choosing a partner, that's online shopping. And a brain that evolved to choose from 30 well-known people breaks down under this workload. Stanford sociologist Michael Rosenfeld tracked thousands of couples from 2009 to 2019 to see how they met. Couples who met online break up statistically faster in the early stages than those who met through mutual friends or in real life. Why? Because in real life, you get to know a person first, and then you fall in love. In an app, you evaluate a picture first, and then you try to force a real human being to fit that image. It's the reverse order, and it doesn't work the way the brain needs it to. We created a matchmaking technology that contradicts the very way the brain makes decisions about partners. We solved the problem of a scarcity of options and created a crisis of meaning. There's another thing we lost. It's called the slow reveal. In a small community, you couldn't hide who you were. People saw you angry, tired, frightened, generous, ridiculous. They saw the real you. And if someone chose you after all that, it was a choice made for a real person. Today, the first few weeks of a relationship are a performance. We show the best version of ourselves. We hide our fears, our inconvenient traits, our vulnerability. And when the mask begins to slip, often after a few months, people get scared. They turned out to be different. No, they turned out to be themselves. You just didn't choose them. You chose an image. Ancient humans couldn't afford that luxury. And strangely enough, that's exactly what made their choice more honest. Here's what it comes down to. For 300,000 years, people fell in love slowly. They got to know each other in action. On the hunt, by the fire, through famine, and in danger. They caught a scent, they read a face, they listened to a reputation. They chose from a few, but they chose for real. Today we have infinite choice, instant connection, and perfectly curated profiles. And yet, we have an epidemic of loneliness. According to data from the Cigna Institute, 61% of adults feel lonely. That is a record high since tracking began. We didn't get better at loving, we got better at choosing. But those are not the same thing. Falling in love isn't a moment. It's a process. It's what happens when you stay next to a person long enough to see them for who they truly are. The brain doesn't fall in love with a profile. The brain falls in love with presence. And here's the question worth taking to bed with you tonight. Have you ever allowed anyone to see the real you? Not the best version, not the carefully constructed image. Just you. Tired, confused, imperfect, because that is exactly how our ancestors loved. Not in spite of all that, but loving that exact reality. Maybe that is why so many people feel disconnected today. We spend years polishing our image, filtering our flaws, and hiding the parts of ourselves that feel unfinished. But real connection begins where performance ends. We are looking for the perfect person, but we were made for the real one.